Welcome back to the CMAS Show. Every Friday here with my guests, Will Noland, Tim Gordon, and we have a new, co-host, right? These aren't guests, these are co-hosts. These are dudes that are here every week. And Nick Stumphauser is going to be with us every week from here on out. Dr. Mike Robillard had some other engagements, things he needed to do. And so he'll be filling in probably indefinitely. Nick, welcome to the CMAS Show, man. Thank you for being our fourth guest, brother.
Yeah, happy to be here as always.
Yeah, cool. I got to spend some time with Nick and Tim this weekend. They came over to my house, and it was pretty cool to learn about all the amazing things that Nick has been doing. So, first of all, I think Nick brings a amazing perspective, or a much needed perspective to our show, being that he's in his 20s, single man, traditional man, Catholic man. But at the same time, I do know that a good percentage of my audience is not yet married and can probably relate to where Nick is in terms of values and what he's looking for in terms of women. Nick, also, would you mind running down your illustrious resume of creative works you've been doing?
Yeah, so before I got involved with this ragtag group of men here, my primary profession was filmmaking, and so since I was 19, I've made 6 documentaries. The bulk of them were made in 2022. So your audience may have seen Watch the Water. These Little Ones, Final Days, or the one that really gained the most traction was Died Suddenly, about the jabby jab. I won't try and get you a YouTube strike by talking too much more about it than that. But if somebody wants to go to Rumble, they can watch all of those there. And that really gave me a tremendous amount of worldly perspective and education because, I was compressing learning about so many different subjects like the World Economic Forum or vaccines or geopolitics, all these things, child sex trafficking into a very short period of time in order to produce these documentaries. So I learned a lot. That's how I met Tim here, and we became fast friends, and brought us to a couple months ago when we wanted to collaborate on this matchmaking endeavor.
Okay. And so that's what we're talking about here today. I'm happy that you brought this up. So matchmaking in a degenerate world, in a world where it's increasingly difficult for people with traditional values to find a mate, right? And so, of course, this is a show for masculinity, so we're always speaking from a male perspective, but it's tough out there for women too. We've spoken about how men have taken the bait, and the sexual revolution has destroyed our values as much as it has done women. So both ends here get to benefit from what you guys are doing. So this is a matchmaking service. Will, you're a part of this project also. Tell us a little bit about what makes this matchmaking service traditional. What is that all about?
Well, what happens with most existing dating apps, probably all of them, is that you get only a small number of women on them and lots of men. So it ends up just being a sausage fest. I think it's about between 7 to 9 to 1, the ratio of men to women. And it's really difficult for men to actually pair up with anybody in that case. So that's the first hurdle. Most men never even get a date. There are some good stats there on what it's like being the average man on Tinder for a year and how likely you are, for example, to hook up with anybody. Not very likely at all. So that's the first hurdle. And then beyond that, you're also looking for a needle in a haystack when it comes to finding someone who actually has the traditional values you're looking for anyway. So what we wanted to do was bring together men and women who share the values that we create content around online and take out all that initial hard work of finding someone who is like-minded. So you don't have to guess anymore whether they believe in patriarchy, for example, because the mere fact that they have been allowed into the pool of people we created shows that they do. So that's a big hurdle removed straight away. And we're also curating the number of men and women. So it's the only service in the world that I'm aware of where we've got more like a 2-to-1 ratio of women to men. So it flips the tables in favor of the men.
Yeah, and Elliot, you had mentioned that it's hard for women. That's actually the inspiration for the service itself, was that a woman had reached out to Will, a 24-year-old virgin Catholic girl, who said, I've tried these apps, they're terrible, and I want to serve my husband, and I can't find a husband worthy of serving, and what do I do? And Will posted this on his Twitter and said something to the effect of, hey, can any tech guys solve this problem? And he was like, there's a chance I might be able to. So I reached out to Will. We had a back and forth, and then hit up Tim and said, like, listen, guys, I think we could come up with something that's never been done before, with the Catholic matches and the, farmers onlys.
This is a fairly new project. And Nick, I know you have a lot to do with putting it together. What has been your experience as not just a founder of this project, but also a client? I got to make a joke real quick. You remember that commercial from the 80s where the guys would be like, I'm not just a founder, I'm the client. It was like the hair club for men. I don't know, it came in my head. But you're not just you're not just the owner, you're a founder. You're a founder, but as well a client. What has been your experience with meeting some of these women through this service?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fascinating to see, because obviously as the founder, and then also just the technical architect of it, I do get the support emails of like, hey, this didn't work, what do I do? But I also get all the applications and putting this together with the help of somebody who watches Tim's show, a really kind man. I don't know if he wants to be named, so I won't name his name, but a very kind man who's been helping me on the back end of these things. And it's been mind-blowing. And Tim and I have commented a lot on just how astonishing it is, the type of person who applies for this, the type of woman who applies for this. A percentage of our women applicants are virgins, and it's a high percentage, and it's a percentage I didn't expect as a young man. A percentage of our women applicants don't have social media accounts. I would say it's even higher than the virginity, is the fact that most of these girls, and even a lot of the guys, they don't have Instagram, they don't have Facebook, they don't have Twitter. They don't want that in their lives. They've recognized that really early on, and it's just not part of who they are. So it's been, I think, white pilling as a young guy, to see the caliber of women who are out there, because that's why I created it, was sort of this black pill mentality of, there are no good women, and even if there are, they're unicorns, and you're never going to find them.
Well, here's why I think this is awesome, because today most people are finding their mate through social media or some online dating app or service like that. Some people would say, oh, if you're traditional, shouldn't you just meet a woman in your neighborhood or meet a woman in your church? But this sort of fills the gap where I don't want to meet a woman who's got an Instagram profile where she's flexing her glutes all the time. And then maybe where I live, these women, maybe there's I don't want to say shortage, but like, where do you curate? How do you curate these women in a local place? Tim, you're also heavily involved. I mean, the three of you guys, this is your project. Tim, what does the vetting process look like for both men and women? So people have to fill out an application. You can't just join. What are you guys looking for in terms of, first men and then women?
The most striking thing about the vetting process for return is that if we're taking search parameters at their terms, one in theory ought to be able to say, I'm a Roman Catholic man. I'm looking for a Roman Catholic woman, within 5 years of my age, or whatever, 3 years of my age. Because Roman Catholicism has been so badly infiltrated by feminism, much more so than Protestantism, or I'd say Eastern Orthodoxy. The worst form of Christian infiltration by the feminists has been Roman Catholicism. It's basically as bad as it's pervaded the widespread culture. It does not do to go and try to meet someone at your church. It doesn't do to go and to even say, I'm going to get the MRS degree at a Cardinal Newman school. This is where I was about 10 years ago, where I was like, well, what young people need to do is go to Franciscan or Ave Maria. Those schools might have virgins, Elliot, but they don't have virgins who are non-feminist. It's easier to, this is a shocking revelation over the last summer of doing this, but I was coming to the realization slowly over the last decade. It's easier to meet a Catholic virgin than a Catholic non-feminist.
Yeah.
Who affirms the patriarchy. So the vetting process has been, the first question we always ask people, girls or guys, is, do you follow Will's stuff or do you follow my stuff? Either or will do, because then we know we don't have to do that backfilling. 75% of the answers are yes from the guys, and I'd say 65% from the girls. But if it was a friend of a friend of a friend, or an old lady from an old lady from an old lady at your church, then we're like, okay, we have to extend this by a few minutes and backfill and make sure that you guys, you, the interviewee, the applicant, understands that this is not, yes, it's about the Catholicism, about being a, Roman Catholic Christian. But more than that, it's about, are you an affirmer of the patriarchy? That's mainly what people need to know. And then the second question is, there are follow-up corollaries with that. If it's a woman, are you expecting to be at home raising a family? And if it's a man, you're not expecting to farm your wife out, right, in the workforce, right? You don't want to pimp her out, right, for extra dollarinis. That would be bad. And then we kind of just get to know them. But those are the main questions. If they follow Will's patriarchy project, if they follow my retrograde stuff, then it's like, okay, we don't have that much more interviewing to do aside from just tell us what you like. Do you like blondes or brunettes or whatever? Do you like muscular guys or tall guys or whatever if we're talking to a girl? The main problem has been the categories, that you can't just say what you're supposed to be able to say. Hey, I'm a Roman Catholic man, which means I'm looking to get married and I love the vocation of marriage, and the man's the leader and the woman's is help meet and all this other stuff. You have to say, no, I'm a Catholic that takes the teaching seriously. It's really sad. It's a sad state of affairs. And it is sad, just as a total thing I'll throw out there. It shouldn't be so divisive to say this stuff. I mean, there's like one secular person out there saying it now, and it's Pearl, and she's saying some of the anti-marriage stuff. And we've covered some of this, and it's like, oh, okay, but she's getting most of the problem diagnosis right. And the solution really lies in matchmaking, where your search criteria are already refined for you. And that's what Return does. She's not getting the solution.
I just think for a moment about how maybe things were done in the past where the matchmaking was probably done by parents, loved ones, people in our circle. It's cool that things have evolved because now you can meet people that are outside of that circle. And of course, you guys are providing that. If you notice on the screen, I put the website, forgot to mention it before, but it's return with a V.us, trad dating service, specifically for Catholics. I'm going to get into that in a moment and why that's important. But Will, from what I understand, based on the website, we're going to run through the website in a moment, but you guys are doing video interviews. And I can't help but to immediately poke holes. And I'm thinking, these have got to be ugly people. Like, why do they need this service? And so you guys are getting to check these men and women out. Is it the case that these are homely looking women and busted faced dudes, or is it truly based on their values?
No, the website states that everyone in the pool is reasonably attractive, and we haven't found that the reason that these people have so far not found a wife or not found a husband is anything to do with what they look like. Some of them are very attractive, but the problem is that when they are talking to other people of a similar level of attractiveness, they find that there isn't any shared values there that can actually help them move forward towards marriage. So that's been the main thing that we're trying to fix. Once you get the values right, and then you can be matched so that you have someone that you find attractive. But it's no good if you're a 6 foot plus, really successful businessman who's looking to get married and has traditional Catholic values. And then you find that, oh, there's an attractive girl who I've met at coffee after mass, but she's a feminist and she doesn't understand submission, doesn't believe in the patriarchy. What's the point in getting married to her?
How do you know, based on the interview and the application, how do you sniff out latent feminism?
I mean, that's a you.
This is me. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have all kinds of tricks. Steph has all kinds of tricks. One of the first tells is, do you want to be a stay-at-home wife? We don't use that SAHM term that's become coined since the days of Dr. Laura Schlesinger. Remember her? Nick, you won't know her, and Will, probably not overseas, but Elliot, you'll remember Dr. Laura. It's stay-at-home mom is not the teaching of the church. We're looking for stay-at-home wives, where Catechism of the Council of Trent, along with Book of Sirach and all of the papal magisterium of the 20th century, clearly affirms the Catholic teaching that a Catholic woman should love to be at home, not only be at home, but love to be at home and ask her husband's permission to go out, according to the Catechism, when she gets married, not just when she starts popping out kids. So we use the term stay-at-home wife, and we use it very conspicuously, with a wink and a nod. This is
I like that. I like that a lot, because I think there's this tendency, even to women who are feminists or just secular women, to hear the idea of being a stay-at-home mom, and it sounds so nice. It's like welfare. It's like, I got my retirement plan, and I'll never have to work another day in my life. But by making that distinction, it means, no, you're not just going to be at home tending to the children. You're going to be under my leadership as a wife and taking care of the home in a way that's conducive to the whole family.
Yeah, and I ask them that's as a follow-up. Always say, like, look, what are you looking most forward to doing, staying at home? What's your greatest strength in terms of functionally, and that you look forward to doing when you stay at home the day after you get home from your honeymoon? What are you looking forward to? And a lot, the cool chicks, which we have tons of them, will be like Ace Ventura, take the deep breath, gardening, journaling, praying, maybe getting some sort of work and pray garden, craft,
Cooking.
journaling, poetry, cooking, canning, baking, sewing, cleaning, the decorating. I'm a big decorator. The list is almost endless. That's my list of 12. But the women that sit there and stare at the screen blankly are the ones that were thinking. They probably understand from the interviewer's question what not to say. But they were the ones that were probably thinking we were going to ask about stay-at-home mothering.
Right.
Which is not it. And they're the ones that are like the bored kids on summer break. Remember when you get back from school and you'd have those loser kids going, I was so bored over summer break. I need school to come to. And I was like, you're insane. I was like nearly at tears the last 3 weeks of summer, just mourning the slow death of each of my summers going back to school. Like, what's wrong with you if you don't know what to do with yourself with your off time? That's just a boring person. This is kind of what we're picking up from the women when we ask them, what are the ergonomics of household economics? What does that look like? What are you looking forward to doing? The cool chicks have great answers. The ones that were planning on just being stay-at-home moms and working until they popped out their first kid, they're the ones that have no answer. And it's a great tell.
It's also emblematic of Tim and Will, and then myself in what I did with filmmaking too. Like when I would make a movie, the reason why it gained traction was because we said things that you're not allowed to say, and we went all of the way. It wasn't just, hey, you should look into the ingredients of this certain medical treatment. It was like, no, we know the exact reason why this was implemented in the world. We're going to expose all of this for you. In fact, we're going to get it on video. And both, Tim and Will have lost professions because of professing the thing to its extreme, to its fullest. I wouldn't even call it extreme. It's just to its fullness, to the totality of the truth of what this is, which is, we're not just slightly right of center Catholics where you think, yeah, if you're a mom, of course, like it'd be best if like you kind of didn't work. What we're doing with return matchmaking is concurrent or congruous with everything that we are as men, which is the fullness of it. If you are part of this this product, the service here, you're going to be a wife who is staying at home from I Do, and you're going to just read Case for Patriarchy and ask your husband, this is the model, this is what's happening, this is what you're part of. There is no other service that does that, because there's probably fewer than like 10 people that are willing to state the fullness of the truth. I personally think it's fewer than 5. It's kind of like everybody on this call, and then maybe like Rachel Wilson and her husband. I don't know many other people who are willing to say all of it and then back it up with like, yeah, we're going to reject you from this service if that's not your thing.
So Nick, once again, you're in the market. You're one of the guys that you're looking for. My question to you is, what's it like? Let me put it that way. What's it like out there in the marketplace right now looking for a wife without a service like this? What are the kind of problems guys are going to bump into if they don't take advantage of something that you guys are offering here?
Yeah, great and scary question. I guess it should be an indication of what it's like out there that I had to start an entire company to solve the problem correctly and not just adjacently. I'm 25. I have dating experience, not tons. I didn't go to college, but I've dated several women, long-term relationships, some short-term relationships. And I've also been to about half of the states in the United States and 3 countries outside the U.S., interacting with and interviewing hundreds and hundreds of people. And that's not a resume builder. That's me saying I have a perspective on at least people and the world that's not sheltered. So when I would get, because I was told the same thing, like just go to the narthex after mass and try and meet a girl. It's like, well, first of all, those women are either on their 3rd child or they're 75. Right. It doesn't work. It's not serving me. And the people in my community, the old ladies at church, which is why that's in the ad that we have on the site, they aren't going, oh, young man, I've seen you here dressed nicely at mass every single Sunday since I've been here, and I notice you don't have a wife. I have a network of people, or I have a granddaughter, or I have an aunt with a sister, with a friend, with a something that you need to meet. That's not happening. It's not happening anymore. It hasn't happened for 20 years, or maybe longer than that. So, and then of course, as somebody who has some modicum of self-respect, the Tinders weren't doing it. They're not doing it for me. It's just a window shopping app game that did nothing to facilitate meaningful relationships. In fact, Will and I are going to be making like a TikTok here soon about a guy who spent I think it was a total of like 600 and some odd days on Tinder itself with hundreds of thousands of individual swipes. And this guy made a flow chart of what it took for him to get all the way through to marriage. And it was just an intense output of attention and work, like algorithmic mining, to produce even like a remotely viable match.
Have you considered that his inclination to make flowcharts for things like that
could
have kept him from
could be the reason why. So it's been really tough out there. You know, you'll meet an attractive woman who's feminine, but she's not virtuous. You'll meet a virtuous woman who's feminine, but she's not attractive. You know, like these sliders just keep like dodging each other out there, and so it's been tough. And I know 25 is young, but it also isn't young in perspective. You think 18, 19, 20 is when 2 generations ago it was extremely common to get married, and by 22 you had one, maybe 2 children. So it's a scary world out there, and that's why I created this. I think there's no 2 men that I would trust more to facilitate. I'm honored. This is a gift for me. I'm selfish with this. Like, I made this, and these guys said yes to it, and I feel like any other guy in my position should selfishly take advantage of this. Like, I'm making it for me and for every person who's like me, and there's millions of people like me out there.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I think it's such a cool topic. Will, what's the difference between matchmaking and a dating site, for anybody who's not clear?
Yeah. So what you're doing with this service is that you are hiring us to fix the problem that you haven't been able to fix by yourself. A dating app is just, you go online and you swipe left, right, and you decide who might be a good fit for you. But what we're finding is that, first of all, there's the problem of not being able to find anyone who's even remotely a good fit for you. We fixed that problem. But the next is the fine tuning. So we might have guys who have been selecting the wrong type of girl because their judgment isn't that great. And it looks good to begin with, but then they find out, once they dig beneath the surface, that this hasn't got the makings of a good marriage. Or you've got people who just need to be told some hard truths so that they have greater likelihood of success. Because let's be realistic, one of the reasons people are single for years and years is because they keep turning down people who actually are in fact good matches for them. But in their delusion, they are holding out for someone to come around the corner who fits this idealized image they have of what their spouse might look like. And a lot of people get into their 40s from that approach, and they need someone to actually coach them through the process of saying, no, these should be your priorities. Here's what you have to offer. Here's a good match for you. Here's why. And that can take a lot of pain and suffering away from them.
So you're not just, linking people up or letting them swipe through randomly. You're coaching, you're advising, you're giving them wise counsel. And I think that kind of answers what I keep seeing in the comments here as probably the biggest question that keeps coming through. We're going to get into the website and the Q&A on there too, because I think it's perfectly set up. But let's dive into it this way. The $1,000 entry fee. Tim, why? Why does somebody need to pay so much for this? Why $1,000?
Well, if we're looking at fair market value, the question is why so little? Because the average for a matchmaking service is like $1,500. So why so little is because we're compassionate gentlemen. We saw a problem and we want to fix it. We initially had the market entry point of $500, and that fetched people that were less serious. Now we have no problem picking up guys or girls for this because the need is aching. It's an aching need. It's what is at the core of the cancer of society, is the attack on the family. And that starts ab initio, unable to form families, a disability that's been engineered top down for people, for the average Joe, to form a family and to be the leader of his family. So 500 wasn't fetching serious enough clientele. 1,000 did the trick. We made that switch probably a month in, and it's the perfect sweet point for now. It's interesting because we have the price point as $0 for the women, and we have many more women, as you might imagine, than men, because women aren't having to pay anything. There's maybe something to having even a $100 or a $200 fixed amount for women. You could argue we didn't want to do that. Part of it, I guess, was chivalric. Not that we were trying to white knight, but we
It's like
thought
women
that
get in the club free. It's like ladies' night. 2 drinks,
yeah.
2 picks.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, women are the commodities. I mean, that men are building buildings and bridges and going to war for. The Helen of Troy's out there. So there's something to that. The women are the commodity. Men are the agents, and so the men have to pay some according amount, which for right now is $1,000. We have a couple that is not far from. They're about to. I don't want to.
Sure.
They're about to go ring shopping. So we really made our first match in late June. So because it's such a white label service, to borrow the way you're always describing it, Nick, and because if you're a serious man and we are able to pair you with a serious woman, you will be able to get married. We say in 9 to 12 months. It's really obviously by some of the results we're getting 3 to 6. You're paying $1,000 to find what Steph always says, a 1% within a 1% within a 1%. 1% of the people out there are serious enough Catholics for you. In America, it's not really a Catholic country. But it's 1% within 1% within 1%. You're paying for that.
How many women do you guys have in waiting right now? Like have applied and are available?
Who have not even received their first match. I think about 40 in total. It's much higher, but there's a lot of, you get your first match, you talk to them for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or whatever. And so there's a lot of those that are already engaged in that. If I could, Elliot, just circle back real quick to the price from like a business standpoint as well. So you're talking to 3 people who are putting their time into building this service right here, and just literally just do the math on how much time are we going to spend specifically on you and your case, and divide that across 3 people. It immediately is obvious that this is an extremely reasonably priced thing. It should be, in my opinion, it should be about 5 to 10 times that. If there was a young person who had $10,000 and could get this, they should be spending $10,000 to get this. That's just an unreasonable thing to expect from a young person such as myself. Even sometimes into the early 30s, depending on what kind of job you have. If you're a Catholic school teacher, like $1,000 is about as much as you can afford. But look at the value that's being provided. Like we're telling you that you could get married to somebody that you're going to spend the next 80 years of your life with happily and virtuously. That is not a claim that is made by Catholic Match. That's not a claim that's made by Hinge. You cannot find this.
It's not a claim that's made by anyone.
Now there's an AI. No, it's not a claim. Who would make that claim? That's an insane proposition.
Yeah.
There is an AI-based service that says that I think they have a somewhat ballpark similar price point. And their proposition is you don't pay until you're married. They have thousands of times the user base that we do, and they've been around for years. They've had 4 marriages. We've been around for about 4 months, and one of our matches is considering ring shopping very soon. In physics, impact is force over distance. We have a far superior impact, and that price point, I'll end it, not to be combative to anybody who's getting sticker shock. I totally understand that. But if that sticker shock lasts to the point that you're not interested in the service, then it's not for you, and I suggest you check your premises.
I love it. So we
the
got
other
some
point
questions.
is that
Go ahead, Will.
the average price, the average cost of dating for a year is $1,560. That's what the average guy spends on dating over 1 year. So for 2/3 of that, you can get the time and the pain taken away, and a higher quality match than you would otherwise have been able to find. And let's not forget as well that this price point means that the exact men that we're not interested in because they want to split the bill with the woman are the ones who are walking away from the service. If you were expecting her to pay something, you're a male feminist and we're not interested in you.
I like that. I like that a lot. So, we got a ton of questions coming in here. I figure we'll field a couple of them. We'll move back and forth. My question, which I think is sort of related to the one that I just posted on the screen. First, before we get to the one on the screen, what is the age range or the average? Let me put it this way. What is the average age? Like, are you getting a lot of born again virgins, you know what I mean? Like, these women in their 30s who is like, yeah, now I'm a traditional woman because I've, been on the carousel for the past 15 years. And I think age would help us understand what is the average age.
I think if I did like the actual arithmetic on it, the average age would be something like 29.
Okay.
Because we have the youngest woman that we got, I think, was 18 or 19. And we've had men up to like 41, I think. And our focus, we say on the site, like, we're not going to turn you away if you're over 30 as a man or a woman. But that's our kind of primary target here is like, I am the avatar here. This is for young Catholics that are trying to get married so that we can have families and revivals. Like, this is the ethos of return. Even the V in return is like, there's something back there that we've forgotten about and we're trying to get back to. So it's not like we're going to turn you away if you're over the age of 30, but the primary focus of our attention is for people ages 20 to 30.
Cool. And it does make it very clear on the site. It says a service for young Catholics intent on marriage within the next 18 months. Before we were to go to that, Leo has a legit question. I'm curious as well. He says, I think showing guys pictures of the kind of girls that are on the site would motivate them to sign up. Why don't you show pictures?
There's two reasons, and I'm curious what you guys have your own reasons, but there's two reasons. First of all, optically, we're not like, this isn't some Russian mail order bride magazine where you sift through and say, oh, for $1,000, I can get this woman. No, you can't. It's not how it works. First of all, you probably don't know. You probably are deluded about what you think you look like. You're probably confused about that. This is a trend that we're noticing at large and in the service is guys think they are something that they're not. Listen, I know what I am. I know I'm 5'8". I know I have 20 pounds to lose, and I know the other virtues and vices that I have. I know that about myself, but that takes some brutally honest people in your life to tell you these things and then kind of recalibrate your expectations. First of all, it's like, this isn't a mail order bride service. Second of all, it's not a dating app. This is exactly what we're getting past in this culture where you've had 4K pornography been shooting into men's brains for the last decade. And what you want to do is get on a site and say, well, I paid $1,000 for this. I should be able to swipe through and find the girl of my dreams, or even like, within 20% margin because I've spent $1,000 on this and therefore I'm entitled to that. That's not how this works. One of the main things that I've had to break as a young man, and it was really like one comment that Will said that lodged itself in my brain, is it was putting physical attractiveness not on the pedestal that I had it on. It's extremely important. You want to find your wife and your husband attractive. That's vital, and I'm not saying that it's not. But the gynocentric and pornographic mentality that we have today is screwing men and women, and now they're 40 years old and saying, how come I can't find a husband or a wife? Let it go. Let it go. It's not as important as you think it is.
No, but the people are genuinely very physically attractive on average.
Yeah.
The average male, the average female that we accepted in these, whatever, we have 120-ish women and I don't know, 60-ish men. some of whom still need to be interviewed. They're on average attractive. That's not a problem. That's not a cope. It's just we want to underscore the point that it's not a mail order bride service. So if you start showing pictures of the women, you become a pimp. There are many 28, 32-year-old pretty virgins in the system in return. That is not
disproportionate. Like over-representation from society. If you just like blindly grabbed 120 women, you will not find the attractiveness, virtue, and virginity that you find in this pool. It does not exist.
It doesn't exist. It's insane. So we're not coping for that. But one of the things we want people to be focusing on return that might not be on the website yet, because this is an adjustment we're kind of making and we're encouraging people to make, is it's a system about self-improvement. And often Will and I have to help initiate self-improvement, because it's not pay $1,000 and we'll send you this lady,
Right.
That's illegal. It's, hey, we'll pay you $1,000 to get to talk to this lady. And the key to matchmaking lies in the emphasis. We are encouraging both of you to take a serious amount of time with each other. Don't be hasty in telling us you want to move on to your next match. So we're really lengthening what's called at law the standard of review. Maybe this lady wouldn't have looked at you much outside of this program. Maybe she would have looked you off. Maybe the same is true vice versa. But two, or if Rachel and Steph are involved in it, 4 experts are encouraging you strongly to not look this person off. We're not saying you have to marry them, but we're saying you probably should, because all your metrics match up. A lot of the people, particularly that are in their 30s or beyond, the people in their 20s are easy, by the way, Elliot. 30s or late 30s or even early 40s, pretty much most of those people need to look to what they're expecting. Expectation management has been big. And with those people, we're saying standard of review might be too strict for you for who you are going to marry. You might need to look at this person and know that you have the confidence of 4 people behind you, 5 people behind you saying, this is a person you should be looking at seriously. You probably in your 20s might not have looked at this person as someone who's good for you. You have 5 smart people that you respect saying, do so. That's a commodity that you can't get with any of the other sites, matchmaking or obviously just dating.
Anything you want to add to that, Will?
Yeah, I just want to stress that when Nick's talking about the average 29, that's including all the men, all the women. And we mostly have women in their mid-20s and men in their, I would say it's more towards the early 30s for men. So that's really the age range we're looking at. But we have accepted some people who are older. But the key point is for guys who are thinking, what can this service offer me? Like Tim stressed, I don't think there's anywhere else in the world that has got this number of attractive virgin women in their mid-20s.
Yeah, and I would say I would estimate it differently. I don't know if you've compressed the data and gotten a arithmetic mean. I've been estimating when people ask me what's the average age, I've been saying 27. If I compressed it, well, someone will just have to do it. Look at our 200 or so, and say it's a little closer to mid-20s, I would guess.
I'm gonna see if I could do this right. I'm gonna share the screen here and kind of just run through some of what's on the website. Obviously, people can go to the website, return with a V. Why the V though? I gotta ask that. What's that about?
Yeah, in the Roman Empire, there wasn't a distinction between U and V, and the entire ethos of this company. One of the services that it provides is us. This is the matchmaking, us by return. But the entire ethos of the company is that we left some important things behind. Some of it was 40 years ago. Some of it was a few thousand years ago, and we're going back. We're going back to get it, and we're facilitating that in the modern age.
Okay, so let's run through real quick some of what people can expect. I'm going to run through the process here. So you guys do a video interview. My question is, what's you guys are doing all these interviews? What surprised you most about people on these interviews? And also what's the wackiest? What's the weirdest? What are some of the strangest and of course pleasant surprise that you've experienced by meeting these people on interview?
Pleasant surprises is all of the pretty virgins in their late 20s and early 30s. That takes the cake. And both. Well, I mean, I don't call men pretty virgins, but decent, serious, handsome, virginal men and really pretty virginal women into the young 30s, or just low body count women into the mid 30s. One or two boyfriends. Before I was back in the church, I had relations with, and that's people like Pearl, who I really like a lot of what she's saying. Everyone's shitting on her, but I like a lot of what she's saying, and I agree with 88% of what she says. She doesn't believe that's out there. It really is. You just have to come to www.returnwithAV.us to get it. Some of the funnier, quirkier things we probably would be advised not to say, but there have been. I mean, the older you go, the more I think advice is needed, which is counterintuitive, right? The people in their middle 20s, you hook them up and they're like, we can go. People in their late 30s have some really, really, really bad intuitions. Like a lot of the guys will be 38, 39, 40, and they'll be wanting to get paired with a 25-year-old. And we'll say, and they'll say, look, I've always dreamed about a big family. This is my obsession. And I'm like, if you're dreaming about a big family, like what happened to the last 20 years of your life? Like, I understand you don't have the same bio clock a woman does, but it's not all that dichotomous. You do have a bio clock. And women don't want to date someone a generation or half a generation away. If you like Smashing Pumpkins, they might say, yeah, I could try doing that. That's not like in Bowfinger. You have to get each other's cultural references. So that surprised me how many of the guys that are 35 to 40 are like wanting a 25-year-old. I get wanting a little younger than you. That's very traditional. But a lot of guys will just unapologetically say, this is what I'm obsessed with. This is why I'm here. I want a big family. It's like, well, why didn't you start earlier? Mm-hmm. So realism is not a thing. The most striking thing to me, well, you could probably speak to this. Women all say the same thing in terms of what they want. They want as tall as they can get. They don't really care as much about muscles as guys think. That's shocking. And obviously they want the biggest earning potential. They all say they don't care about looks. After one or two matches, most of the women will say, okay, I need to amend that. I care about looks some. And that's like, even with a handsome guy, they'll be like, oh, I realized I do like brunettes, not blondes. That's been very surprising, and it's funny. A lot of women don't know what they're attracted to. That's been one of the funny things.
And hence the matchmaking, by the way, because like you're paying us you're exporting that process. That's what the service is. This is not you paying for a pool of options from which you will then deploy your discernment upon. It's not what this is. You're paying for people who you obviously respect because you know their content and you've watched what they have published and stuff like that, to make that assessment. And so when you do get the match and it says, hey, congratulations, we're excited to introduce person A to person B, you should be thinking about that as, I might marry this person within a year and my life will be forever changed. And if you're, I'll say 30, maybe 32, 33. If you're between 30 and 33 years old, you haven't solved it yet, take it seriously. Take this as a golden ticket from a chocolate bar. Okay? Don't take like, can I buy 10 more chocolate bars, please? And maybe there's another golden ticket in there. Like that's delusion. This is the commodification of the family, and we're breaking you out of that.
Nice Wonka reference.
So the second point here is that you get two matches, right? So within 90 days of your call, Tim and Will, in collaboration with their wives, will consider all the profiles and provide you with 2 complimentary persons that they have discerned and would be ideal potential spouses for you. So my question is, I would love to hear stories where you guys nailed it. It was like, hey, it was a good match. And also, what does it look like when it isn't a match? What were some of those? And as the matchmakers, what have you guys learned? I'm sure you're getting better as you go along.
So we've had some feedback already saying this is the woman that I was looking for, is the best match for me that I've ever experienced. So it's great to get that. And it's happened more than a few times. And you can see when people hit it off well, when they get talking for a few hours and the relationship might develop a bit over a couple of weeks, but then they figure out maybe it's to do with personality or interests, that actually we need to do some fine tuning with the second match. Then we just ask them questions to find out what they liked, what they didn't like. And then we'll also decide whether we think it's realistic for them to go out searching for someone who adds those extra things in, or whether they need to double check and go back and think, maybe I need to make it work with that first match.
Another thing I'd like to emphasize here is Keeper. Keeper is the app I was referring to before, Keeper.ai. So you have thousands of people from around the world, and it's free to apply, and it's open to everybody. So think about this. You have the pool is the world and everybody who's heard of this application, and you fill out your preferences to a highly detailed degree, right? And it's using AI, which don't get spooked by using AI. Like, it's matching buttons that you've checked and saying, okay, you have this laundry list of things that are similar. Thousands of people, years in operation, 4 marriages. What are they missing? How are we so close to our first engagement in 4 months if you should be able to algorithmically just chunk everything together that's the same and produce a long-lasting relationship? Just something to consider.
Have you guys ever, just made a bad match? And if so, like, what did you realize afterwards? Like, oh, maybe we didn't see this, or maybe we just weren't aware of something.
Yeah, like if that happens, and this is sorry that the corporate business man kicked in here, but if that happens, I've watched Tim and Will go, okay, we'll give you a third, we'll give you a fourth. Like, we're not just going to be like, well, that was, it says on the site, right. Like our purpose in this is to facilitate marriages. That's actually what excites us. So if it doesn't work because you start talking to the gal and you find out that in the interview she was able to hold back some personality traits, or the guy was excited to talk to Tim and Steph, but starting to talk to the girl, cat got his tongue, and it was like an hour and 30 minutes of kind of basically silence or something like that, and that didn't come through, then we recalibrate.
Yeah, one girl, a lot of it's just based on someone's eligibility, and do they seem like a good match for more of the men or women in the program. One girl has gone to 5 that we think is really cool. We've matched her with 5 different guys because she's so chipper. Every time it doesn't work out, we're surprised. And she was one of the first applicants we got back in May, or early June. And, just every 2 weeks, we're like, she's got to work with this guy. She's a really cool chick. So, I mean, a lot of it's just, you think some people are extra cool and you're willing to go beyond. I think she was guaranteed 3 matches, which is where we began. And we're like, she's going to work out with someone because she's really, really cool. So we're not trying to suck an extra dollar. Of course, with the girls, they don't pay extra once they've reached once they've caught their limit. They're just sort of out. But we're not looking to do that. And same thing with the guys. We have guys that are over their limit. We're like, we think this guy's a commodity, and we just want to see people get married. So we're not really, unless someone's difficult. There have been some difficult cases of a few people being belligerent. I'm thinking of literally 3 cases out of 200, or people that are wildly disproportionalized expectation to reality regarding themselves and their match. Then we're like, yeah, we're looking to get you married. That's what we're looking to do, not to stick you to 2 or 3, depending on whether you grandfathered into 3 matches.
Yeah, the limit on the matches is the same as like why we're not putting profile pictures on the front page.
Right.
Is it's not a dating app.
Right.
If you want 100,000 options like that one guy who spent 600 days on Tinder just to get married, then go to Tinder. But the imagine 1,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, whatever community you want to refer back to, and you went to the matchmaker of your community or your grandparents or your whatever put you together and like, oh my gosh, you should marry this person. This is a really good match. We've all discussed it. We know you well. We know this community. You should marry this person.
Right.
And you go, can I see my second match? Like, you're very confused. If that's how you're approaching this, you're very confused.
So in addition to the 2 matches, you guys offer what's called a send-off here. And so you say, Will and Tim will recommend a method to effectively begin the courtship based on their knowledge of each party. Would you be willing to give an example of what that looks like? What kind of advice and how does it work out?
Yeah, I got to go in a minute for another call, but just quickly, what you get most of the time is based on our knowledge of what the interests and personalities are. We'll just be telling the men to go in from the first Zoom meeting and be leaders straight away, be confident and direct the conversation rather than just sit there saying, well, what do you want to talk about? We want the man to go in there with his best foot forward, thinking about how he dresses, how he conducts himself, and we'll even help people with the way they might phrase the initial email when they're trying to actually arrange the meeting. Because some of the guys who are using the service, they need coaching there too, so they don't come across as being too needy, etc. So that's an important part of it. And then if people are also, after a few dates in, having some questions about how to take different topics or where to go next with activities, then we're there to help with that too.
Yeah, and there's also a heavy emphasis on if this is going well, get on an airplane, get in your car, go meet the person. And this is happening. This is happening with our successful matches so far. You have to be proactive. Men are expected to travel to the woman in order to court, and the women are expected to move to the man if they decide to get married. Because the man's usually got a job or a home or something like that. This is his patriarchy now, and you're going to enter his world and serve him as his helpmate. But for that initial thing, it's guys, get out there. Go to her city, go dancing, go to a bar, go get food, go roller skating. Come up with something. We'll help you. We'll give you. And the reason why is because the price point and the size of the pool here. If you email Tim or Will after this and you're like, guys, it's working out great. I love this chick. She's awesome. Or like, this guy's fantastic. He's coming to see me. What do I do? What do I wear? What should I say or whatever? We're stoked. This is what we love to do. We're going to email you back and say, fantastic. Tell us how it goes. You should do X, Y, and Z. Like, I've watched Tim and Will do this for people. It's very charming.
So that leads to another question that was asked earlier. How is location of each individual taken into consideration?
Yeah, so we service many cities. We even have some Australians, a couple of Poles, if that's not a racial slur, I don't know. A couple of Poles, some people in Western Europe, some Germanys. We have some UK and Ireland, England. A lot of Canadians, surprisingly, but obviously like 85-90% of what we're serving is in the United States. And then within the U.S., obviously you see on the application there, it's just saying like, okay, if you're in the U.S., what state are you in? And so it's a consideration, but it's not really a primary consideration because the investment of like a road trip or a plane ticket after 5 or 10 Zoom calls when you're like pretty certain this is going to go somewhere, it's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. And if you think it's a big deal, then again, like it's kind of not for you. We're talking about the rest of your life here. You gotta be willing to take the leap, go meet the person, and if you've had sufficient video calls with the person, like it's really not that big of a risk to go out and meet them.
Yeah, and the ultimately, because the women are all committed to patriarchy, they're pretty much always willing to relocate wherever for the man.
Yeah. And it also underscored by the fact that we're not taking geography into account because of the invention of the airplane, is the idea that this is courtship. You date when you're married, right? So who wants a date that doesn't culminate in the marital act anyway, right? You can't. We want you going courting. This is an epistemic process. You're trying to get the information. 3 to 6 months should be sufficient to get the information, and a short engagement. Right. And then you get married and you date when you're married, and you enjoy being able to be in the same town and watch movies and then retire to the bedroom together, or go to a theater and then go get coffee and then hang out. Or you could do that once you're married. You need information, people. You need information. Is this person a good enough match for me to go the distance? People in your 30s, you need to start, I don't want to say lowering your expectations like the old SNL skit, but you need to get realistic about, all I need is someone who has the same telos, Christian goal in mind, and that I'll enjoy. And if it's a woman, this man will be my leader. If it's a man, this woman will be my helpmeet. And can we do this in a way that will be reasonably frictionless? And once you get that, we want you to get engaged and go get married. That's what this is about. The world is steering you wrong. It doesn't take a year of dating someone where you see each other and hang out every day to know that you're going to get married. That's nonsense.
Yeah, it is nonsense.
I got to shoot now, guys, but good to speak to you.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks.
Good to speak
Take
to you,
care.
Will.
Be well, brother. Okay. Let me, I don't know if how do I remove Will's block there? So most of the questions have sort of been answered already, but I want to kind of expand on this one a little bit, because we have some guys asking, about Eastern Orthodox. Can ECO's asking, are they accepted? So why is it for Catholics only, and how strict is that?
Yeah, well, for women, and it says this on the application. Perhaps I will amend that on the FAQ there. Women don't have to be Catholic; they have to be Christian, willing to convert for marriage. So that's an important distinction. There are many Christian women who are of high quality and totally want to be married, but there's no salvation outside of the church. And again, this goes back to like what we do in the fullness of the truth. And so we're not going to skimp on arguably the most critical thing, which is that there's no salvation outside of the church. Sacraments are meted out through the Catholic Church. This is where you get them. Jay Dyer might have an opinion about whether or not there's apostolic succession and there's, the sacraments. I'm not going to concern myself with that, but we're Catholics.
He affirms succession.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're Catholics. You should be Catholic. If this inspires you to become Catholic so that you get married, that's a double win for everybody involved. Congratulations. You're in the ark. And then lastly, like it is just the best filter for a person. Like if you're trying to figure out how can we do as much groundwork as possible, as efficiently as possible, are you a practicing Catholic? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, like 80% of the work's done.
Okay. The only other question on here that is a little different is, do you guarantee marriage?
Yeah, I mean, of course not.
No, that would be, I mean, the only way we could guarantee marriage is to bind both parties contractually
Right.
to, you must marry the person that you get together with. And this is one I've been on vacation for about 2 weeks. The first week I was still making matches, like in the lines to the rides at Universal. I was in like the Harry Potter line, like matching people, looking at files I had in my pocket actually. And the last week I've been off of it. What I spent the last week doing is trying to help certain parties adjust their expectations, which is, we strongly think you should marry or have married your first match. And here's why. We're not going to make you. Like I say, a lot of people that do this are thriving with it. We have some strong couples right now. Some really, one that is about to become the strongest form of couple. It's a great joy to us. For the people that are shooting through their matches, if we didn't care about what we did, we'd be like, well, we held up our end of the bargain.
Yeah, hey, thanks for the money.
Thanks for the money.
Never email us again.
Yeah,
that's not what's happening.
That's not what's happening. I'm like, I'm going to keep you around for an extra match, free of charge. Try this, and this. For a lot of the applicants, it's weight. Men lift them, women lose them, the pounds. And but that's 20% or less lift or lose weight. With a lot of them, it just comes down to, we would love to guarantee marriage. And what we can guarantee is the conditions for the possibility of marriage. What we can guarantee is, if you are willing to come into this process, we can secure the conditions for the possibility of marriage. The rest of it, little horse, is you have to, or I guess little Pegasus, you have to spread your horsey wings and fly. We can't do it for you. That's been only a challenge, in a minority of the cases, but those have mostly been people in their late 30s, where you see the calcification of some bad habit that's being brought to bear. But the conditions for the possibility of marriage are there. The couple that we're hoping is engaged very shortly here is a mid-30s couple. Yeah. And it's going to be a great celebration for us when they do. We can't guarantee it, but we can guarantee, if you're serious enough, you can get married with this system.
And that's not Old Testament legalese. That's not Old Testament magic there. That's actually very New Testament. It's very Christian. As you said, every man is compatible by nature with every woman. Like, that is how this stuff works. Expectation management, it was probably the aspect of this service that was least expected.
Right.
I kind of went into this thinking every man and every woman had a solid purchase upon who and what they were and how they were perceived by others and their capacity for a relationship. That's what I thought going into this. So then all we had to do was the presentation. The presentation of these two perfectly compatible, self-possessed individuals. That's not actually what this job has become. The job has become teaching and informing the participants of what the landscape is, of who they are, of what is possible, and then really like a lot of encouragement. And by the way, to everybody who's listening to this, I'm not
evangelizing,
or I don't know what the
pontificating.
word, pontificating, as if these weren't all lessons that I'm rapidly learning and assimilating. Like, again, I am the avatar. I'm making it for myself and for people like me. And so my expectations have been tweaked. Like, I get to watch the iterations of relationships go through and see what works and what does not work. And these are the lessons that I'm taking away and presenting. I'm not trying to preach as if I'm holier than thou or have figured it out. Obviously not. I made the damn site.
Very cool. So we're talking with two of the founders of the Return Us dating service, matchmaking site, Tim and Nick here. Before we wrap up, I'm just curious, is there anything else that you think my audience should know about what you guys are doing before they head over to the website and add an application?
Take serious a lot of the sort of oblique references to cautionary example we've referred to today. I mean, really, young people out there, you ought to use this service. If young men, if you have the money, you ought to try. The pool of women is amazing. It's amazing.
And ever growing.
And ever growing. And it's always growing. Young men, it's goodly young virgins or low body count women who are pre-sorted to want to be the helpmeet for a goodly young man that already know my brand or Will's brand in most cases. Just be ready if you do apply to really get married and you know, to travel to see the person we set you up with. If you guys hit it off by Zoom, you said 5 or 10, I say 3 good Zoom calls. Go out there for the weekend and get things cracking. In the course of a season, we've had 2 or 3 couples that are really pushing the ball along. And you should do this if you want to get married. There's no other service out there like it. And that is being tested. The product is being tested by the results.
Right.
So yeah, it's been an amazing summer. I never expected to be a matchmaker. I'm a Frasier fan. In the final season, he tries a matchmaking service, and it's funny. It's my favorite show. I never thought I would be Charlotte, the matchmaker, but if you know that show.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't either, but it fits all 3 of us like a glove. It's because the 3 of us, we love. And if I had to, I mean, yeah, the return, it's like we're going back, but what are we going back to? I can't talk about some of the technology that's coming out late this year, early next year. I will soon. Elliot, I told you at your home the other stuff that I'm doing. But it's all because we love. It is like God is love. And I'm not trying to spin this at the very end into like a live, laugh, love placard, but it's genuine. Like men are the true romantics. It's not women, by the way. Men are the true romantics. Men build cathedrals and in like the James Brown song, you know, like the railroads to carry the heavy loads around the world for the women. That's what we're doing here. This is for you because we are the true romantics. We want to see romance in its proper context that lasts to eternity. That's why we do what we do, and that's why it's genuinely stimulating our soul to do this kind of work. It's so fun.
Well, I do have one request. I'm at the application page right now. Great questions. Have you taken the COVID-19 vaccine? All right. Are you addicted to pornography? These are good questions. I would like to know these things, and I'm sure women would like to know. Would you be willing to add one more question, which is, how did you find out about us? That way you can get all the Yo Elliots thrown in from today's show, because I'm sure there are a lot of guys listening. I'm going to mail this out. I'm sure a lot of guys will be interested in what you guys are doing. I'm totally on board with your mission here, so I'm so happy to support what you're doing. So that's it. That's all. What's up, Nick? Any last words?
No, I'll add that.
Thanks, Elliot.
Yeah, you got it, guys. All right. Well, we're out of here, guys. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, CMAS, bro. We out.